What is going on, everyone? Welcome into the Oregon Ducks live show right here on the Oregon Channel, the voice of college football. Thank you guys for tuning in. Make sure, of course, as you come in, hit that like button. It helps spread the video out, helps the channel out a lot and the show. And tonight, of course, we have Spaz down here below, who is Cougar Tracks tonight. But we have a very special guest tonight, Sam Finley of the Eugene Magazine. How are you doing tonight, Sam?
I am doing wonderful. It is great to be here. I'm looking forward to a good 10 minutes of finding out what this show is all about. I mean, what did I get myself into, fellas?
We are the premier Oregon live channel on the voice of college football, started by Mark Rogers, who used to work with ESPN for many years, and now he's got, 20-some college football channels that he runs, and from the SEC to the ACC to the Pac-12 to Big East, you name it. We got channels all over the place.
Yeah, well, getting a guy like Mark Rogers to do something like that, I mean, yeah, that's a big kudos right there. So,
yeah, he's an Ohio State fan, though. Minus that.
Yeah, well, nobody's perfect.
Yeah, right.
Anyways, yes, I do write features for Eugene Magazine here in the Eugene area. I've been involved more or less in sports journalism related stuff since 2000, when I started doing stuff initially for my campus radio station here at the U of O. And then later on, I somehow stumbled my way into a magazine called Ducks Illustrated, a longtime publication in this area. And then somehow Eugene Magazine kind of said, well, I don't know, maybe we'll give them a shot. And somehow that's lasted for the past 14 years. So, just somehow I've found my way to be around this stuff. And it is a fun thing to do, that's for sure. I've been blessed to been able to say I got to, during my college days, particularly when we started up, there's a sports radio show called Quack Smack on KWVA. It started in 2001. I'm one of the initial creators of it. And that same year, that 2001-2002 sports season, that was the year the Ducks finished number 2 in the nation. Joey Harrington was a top 3 Heisman finalist. And that was the same year the two Lukes and Freddie Jones took the Oregon men's basketball team to the Elite Eight. Now, that's a heck of a way to start off a sports radio show program, is by being able to cover all of that stuff. And, over the years, too, I've been happy to be able to say I love talking to former, obviously, defensive coordinator Nick Aliotti. He's one of the best guys I ever talked to. Guys like LaMichael James, Rashad Bowman, Justin Herbert. I just gave, Sabrina Ionescu. There's a lot of people that I could say I love to talk to. I've had the privilege to talk to. And we could talk about that all night, but you guys probably want to talk to me about a whole lot of other things than that. So let's get down to business, gentlemen.
I got to say, if you can share our information with Nick Aliotti, I bet that guy's a trip to have a conversation with. Off the record type of talk, I bet that guy is so awesome.
Without question. In fact, I did a feature on him for Eugene Magazine. Back in the summer of the 2010 is when I sat down with him in his office, his then office anyways, because final office was obviously, and was now known as the Hatfield Dallin Conference. At the time, I'm in the office at the Cas Center. And he was telling me all this stuff about how he was in the initial office he had was a renovated closet that he had to share with the other assistants. And how when he got there, there weren't that many parking lots around Autzen. Which is funny now. Now there's some parking lots, but no place to park.
Right.
But yeah, Nick Aliotti was a guy that, my God, anything that came out of his mouth was pure gold. And I'll give you an example. in 2007, when they opened that season against not Fresno State, Houston, they had that big shootout, which finally Dennis Dixon put on ice when he ran for like 70, 80 yards down the sidelines for a score. Little did we know that we had more of that coming from him that year till the unfortunate ACL tear, but I digress. Anyways, after that game, Nick Aliotti said, it was a defensive struggle today. Both teams struggled to play defense.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, anything. Like I said, when he was mad, anything. I mean, he was like one of those verbal gifts that kept on giving. I mean, undoubtedly one of the best 5 talkers in the history of U of O athletics. Now, that's saying something.
Wow, yeah. I think one of the best people as far as voices where U of O is concerned has got to be Jerry Allen. He's just iconic. He's a legend.
Without question. A terrific fella. I mean, he's hung around here all these years. I just remember all the guys when I initially came into this kind of stuff back in the day. You had guys like Joe Ginsante, Todd McKim, you had Ron Bellamy as the head columnist at the Register Guard. And now you look at it, Jerry's the only one left standing out of all those folks. And to have had those, to been able to have called all those games, and he couldn't have known what he was getting into when he got the job in 87, that starting with 94, that it would suddenly boom into what it did. And I think he just feels very blessed to have been a part of it all these years. And he's kind of slowed down a little bit in recent years. You might have noticed he doesn't do he does color commentary on radio now for basketball, but he doesn't do the play-by-play so much anymore on that side of it. I know this because he has personal reasons for it. I've talked to him about it. I can't share it because it was in confidence, but yeah, Jerry is undoubtedly one of the best voices you will ever hear in this town.
Oh yeah.
Bill Walton. No. I love hearing him broadcast basketball. But.
Oh, Bill Walton?
Yeah.
My God, that guy is a hoot. That guy is one of the biggest hoots. And you know, if I can get into other stuff here, this is one of my gripes with some Duck fans. I'm always hearing, "Oh, Bill Walton hates Oregon. Bill Walton hates Oregon." That is the biggest bunch of
that man
Barbara
loves Oregon.
You know the initials I've ever heard. Anytime I hear him talk about Oregon, I'm always hearing him being very, very complimentary, one way or another. Even when they play UCLA, who obviously, even when he's doing a Oregon UCLA broadcast, who he's privately rooting for. And yet he takes every opportunity he gets to give Oregon props for what it's done in basketball and everything else. And yeah, the fact that he says the darndest things, he's one of my favorite basketball guys.
Exactly. Outside of Aliotti, I think it would be, I would, even just not directly for Oregon, just in sports general, would be with Bill Walton.
Oh, you got to get him. Any way you can get him, you better get him.
Yeah, just seeing that 30 for 30 on him last year was just amazing. Just to see that how the 30-some surgeries or whatever that he's been through in his life, and just yeah, the guy's a trooper, man.
Without question.
Well, Sam, I know you have a little bit of a limited time here, so I want to just jump right into it. Me and Spaz are going to rip the Band-Aid back off, as we have to discuss what your opinions were, especially because I'm sure you wrote something about it or going to coming up potentially. I'm not sure, but at least get your insight, what you thought about the heartbreaker this last weekend on the road. That was not
absolutely
how we wanted it to go.
I'm absolutely want to talk about that. So I'll just jump right in. here's the first thing I'm going to tell you guys is it's a frustrating loss, but I said it on Facebook and I'll say it right here. This was round one, because if you look at it, both of these teams, if they keep playing the way they're playing, they're going to meet again in the Pac-12 championship. And it's very hard to beat the same team twice. Very hard. And it's not so much that Oregon lost that game as much as you had two heavyweight contenders hitting it out, and punch, counter punch. And it just came down to the one team that made the slightly fewer mistakes than the other. And as it turned out, Coach Lanning maybe before halftime should have kicked a field goal. I do not quibble with the other two times he went for it. It was just a matter of the execution of the plays they wanted to do in those situations. And if you keep fighting, you keep doing the same process, you keep refining the analytics, going forward, that guy, the process is going to get so much better with him going forward, because they'll start figuring out the right plays to do in those situations. But that was, you don't get, but I thought going forward on 4th and 3 at the 47 was the right call, because I don't care if you punt it. I don't care whether you're giving it to Michael Penix at midfield or at the 15-yard line. The way he was slinging the ball in that game, just like the way Bo Nix was slinging the ball in that game, the defenses were not finding many answers. So if you can get the first down on that 4th and 3, you got him. It was the right call. Maybe, going for it was the right call, but maybe, you could argue they could have just done a quarterback draw with Nix, or they could have, the way Jordan James is just powering through people, you could have handed it off to him and played tough man ball. But, again, the reason it's a frustrating game is because it's one of those games where both teams deserve to win. But somebody got the short end of the stick, and it was Oregon. It happens. It's the thing about football is the things that you cheer for are also the same plays that if they're just a little off, just by that much, which is what it was, they're going to break your heart. So the way I look at it is, as long as they learn the few lessons they don't need to learn from it, this team is going to be a lot better going forward. And I just don't see either Washington or Oregon, like I said, losing between now and the Pac-12 championship. We're going to see these guys again.
Yeah. I think so too. And I think the tough game for Washington going forward is going to be that early game in November in Research Stadium down in Corvallis. That's going to be the tough game for them in the end. I don't believe, did they play USC this year?
I believe they go to USC, yes.
Oh, yeah, that might be tough, but USC doesn't have a defense this year, so
No, USC does not have a defense. It's I'm after what I saw from USC against Notre Dame, against a team that does have a defense. It's going to be very tough for USC to put up points when the other teams they play have defenses, especially when those teams with defenses like Oregon have offenses too. So suddenly I'm taking Oregon from maybe a slight favorite in that game to I wouldn't say heavy favorite. I would never say heavy favorite against USC ever. But let's say slightly higher favorite than I thought before. But definitely, Washington's got a buzzsaw coming, potential buzzsaw in Corvallis. And I'd say the biggest hurdle for Oregon going forward, and that's not to overlook Washington State, because, hey, Washington State is a team that it doesn't matter what the record is. They are always a bunch of plucky dudes, and they always get up for the Ducks. But I would say otherwise, the biggest hurdle going forward for Oregon is going to be that trip to Utah. Because Utah is not a picnic to play in. And they're not a picnic team. But you get by Utah, you're looking at the Pac-12 championship unless you stumble on yourselves.
Yeah. I think the only thing about Utah that doesn't concern me as much anymore is with the whole Cam Rising. I don't see Utah going very far in the Pac-12 any further without Cam Rising.
I agree. They're a better team with Rising, but at the same time, I just look at what they've been able to do without him, and the fact that Utah's just a tough place to play. I still would say Oregon is the favorite in that game, but that's the one.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you get over that, that's the high hurdle between now and a potential Pac-12 rematch with Washington.
And we'll get a good
in my humble opinion.
And we'll get a good taste this weekend too, because Utah plays at USC. So does Utah's defense have to fully carry them, or does their offense take a step forward even without Rising? I think USC defense is not. I don't want to even compare, but that'll be at least a good signature on the road test for Utah.
Oh yeah. Yeah, Utah definitely. They're going to find out how well they've done offensively without Cam at USC. There's no question about it.
Have you heard anything, Sam, about Rising?
About how soon he's going to be back?
Yeah.
Honestly, I know about as much as anyone else, and Utah's been pretty tight-lipped.
Yeah, they have week to week. It's like, oh, well, he could play. We'll see how it is. And he doesn't play. I think if he doesn't play this week, I think he's done for the year.
That may be true. You never can tell. You never can tell. But, yeah, the way it's been going, you'd think if he was healthy and ready to go, they would have said, oh, he's practicing. He's looking good. But they have said Zippo. It's almost like they're dangling him out there like a card.
Yeah.
That could be played, but may not be played.
Well,
but we'll see.
The USC guys said that too. They're like, yeah, if Rising's playing, then it's a whole different ballgame. But again, now he's going to be probably pretty rusty too, sense of game time situation. So you don't know what Rising you're going to get either. So we're going to have to wait and find out, because it sucks that he's not playing too.
Yeah. All I know is, getting back to Oregon, that's why it's so good that Bo seems to be 100% healthy, as opposed to what we saw of him late last season when his ankle got nicked up. And again, that's why my only real quibble that I have with Lanning, and for that matter with offensive coordinator Will Stein, who, just for the record, I think has done a fabulous job so far, is I'd like to see them run Nix more to keep the defenses honest against the throw a little more. I haven't seen Bo running as much. I would like to see a little more of that. I don't want him run. You never want your quarterback running all the time. I don't care who he is. But I would like to see Bo to just kind of let's have him do a read option, and if he's got an open lane, have him take it. Have him get that 5-10 yards and take the heat off his running backs a bit, and for that matter, make the defense be honest against it a little more, and that just opens up your pass game that much further.
I know Stein, when he came in, said he'd like to have a quarterback run 12, 13 times a game, something in that line. Not as much as Dillingham did, because not the quarterback sneak stuff necessarily, but it seems like they're going, we don't need to do it right now because the offense is moving as well as it is. So maybe they're like really saving that for like Texas Tech, where it was like pure desperation mode, where Nix had to like make those plays. Like, I don't know. Yeah, I have no idea either. I wouldn't mind seeing some more read options though.
Yeah, I would too. Anyways, fellas, I've got to get going, but I've loved doing the show. I'm happy to come back again. And go Ducks, man.
I want
It's
to
going to be
like
phenomenal.
2 seconds, if I can, of you. Really
Absolutely.
Quickly, just really quickly, because we did it with JJ Burden, and all of us lost on our score predictions last week because Washington won. So we all lost. Just for you, Sam, to keep you in the loop here with our running list, do you have a score projection potentially for Washington State versus Oregon?
Of course. Yeah. I'm going to go ahead and say Oregon 45, Washington State 21.
21, okay. Well, Washington State, yeah, their offense has not been looking good, but hey, you never know. They might get on track with their receivers coming back or something like that too this week. That's been hurting them, I know. So.
Yeah, there's no question about it. But I just too many times Washington State seems to like to score when they play Oregon. So I think they will. They're not going to run over Oregon, but they will get their points.
Well, awesome. Well, thanks for coming in tonight there, Sam. And hopefully we can have you back again later in the year for another chat.
I look forward to it, gentlemen. And you have yourselves a wonderful evening. And I'll see you next time.
All right.
Appreciate
Thanks,
it a lot.
Have a good night, guys.
You too.
You too.
Okay. Bye-bye.
All right, everyone. That was Sam Finley, Oregon sports writer at the Eugene Magazine. Appreciate him coming in, taking his time to talk a little Ducks with us, especially following Washington week. So appreciate that a lot. I don't know. Do you want to get into a little bit more of the reviewing of the Washington game, or did we have enough pain this last Saturday?
I think we got quite a bit covered Saturday and a little bit on Sunday. I'll just say this, that if we continue to play the way we've been playing, that was round one, and we will definitely have round two here soon, hopefully, in Vegas.
And what Sam said too, I think we all agreed on, like, okay, maybe the field goal, but I think going for it was the correct call no matter what. It was just the play calling maybe wasn't the greatest in those situations. I mean, again, outgained Washington by 100-some yards. You had 2 more scoring opportunities than Washington did. You should have capitalized on at least one of those. Didn't. That's just how the game goes. Roll the dice. Just like rolling the dice by letting this guy on screen.
Oh, look, it's a Derek.
I thought I'd make an appearance tonight, man.
What is going on?
Yeah, I thought I'd stop in for a bit.
Well, thinking about that, since you're here, do you have any final kind of words a little bit on the Washington game? Because Sam gave his opinion, and I think most of us agreed with pretty much everything he said. We all seem to be on board with the same kind of view of how it all went and, all that stuff.
You said with Washington this previous weekend?
Yeah.
Yeah, to be honest, the more I get into this week and the more I read, the more I hear interviews from players, coaches, I think less and less of this is an issue of aggression. I really, really do not have a problem with what transpired in the fashion that it did. I mean, obviously, I think I wish that we would have given somebody like Bucky or Jordan James a chance to kind of, pick up those 1 or 2 yards in some of those key situations, especially when we're facing like a 3rd and 3, for example, when, obviously go 2 incomplete passes in a row and turn the ball over. But, when they're chunking off 6 to 7 yards a run at a time, I do wish we would have gone back and at least fed them to give them an opportunity. But I think that's my only issue at this point. I think, I like the aggressive call. Especially after I heard Dan talk about, why he kind of did some of the things he did. I think it was the right call to try to ice that game at the end, pick up that 3 yards, try to get the first down and just end the game right there. Because like you said, that Washington offense was moving at will, kicking the field goal or not kicking the field goal, I should say, at half. It was just, that's their identity. They're an aggressive team. So no, I really don't have a problem with it. It sucks we lost. It sucks. The play call may not have been perfect for the situation, but aside from that, I don't I don't have any issues there.
You heard it first.
It's what it is. We move on. Hey, that's what they tell me. I don't know.
No, I have to agree. I mean, because there's been a lot of people running their mouths this week, and hate between hating on Cam Lewis. I'm like, dude, the guy just one field goal. It happens. It sucks. It's that field goal, but it happens. You can't hate him for that. The play calling. Every show I have watched reviewing this game is like instant classic, amazing, and they're like, both these teams, this is what you wanted to see, and this is why they are literally 1 and 2 in the Pac-12, if not 1A, 1B, and then line.
Yeah, and I think we saw that from the media and even ESPN and everybody. When Oregon only dropped one spot, and basically Washington just flipped with Oklahoma because they didn't play last week. So, you kind of see the writing on the wall that everybody sees that these are definitely the 2 top teams in the Pac-12, and not just in the Pac-12, but probably 2 of the top 5 teams in the country. And for once, the Pac-12 is finally getting some love nationally.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I can't think of another loss off the top of my head in the last couple of years where we've only fallen 1 spot because of it. And like you said, I think that is strictly because the national media does respect Washington so much. And I mean, like you said, watching that game, it was an instant classic. It's going to be one of those games we look back on in 5 years and say, that was a hell of a game. Unfortunately, there were 2 great teams out there and someone had to lose. So there was going to be 1 or 2 stories happen there. It was either going to be Washington melted down in the 4th quarter and gave it up to Oregon, and we're having a completely different conversation at this moment, or, things transpired the way they did, and Oregon just happened to be on the receiving end of a pretty shitty situation there. But, it is what it is. Somebody had to win, somebody had to lose, and, I truly in my heart believe we're up for round 2 come December. So, that's to be determined yet, but it is what it is. I'm glad the national media is kind of giving Oregon that respect, though, just because I don't think they deserve to fall any farther than they did.
Yeah, that's something we talked about on the post game was, hey, how far does Oregon fall? Like Washington, we figured they're going to go at least a couple spots. We're like, how far? I said 2 to 3 spots, so it only fall 1 shows the level that they were like, oh, okay, we see that this game was literally a coin flip to a degree, like literally, and we were on the road. We're not going to punish a team that did that and still had a chance to go to overtime, even like, and they didn't. And I'm like, okay, so they are actually doing the whole respect. Because normally, yeah, we would drop by 7, 8 spots probably, like in years past.
Yeah, everyone watched game of the week last week, over 7 million.
Yeah, as you know, USC and Notre Dame. I mean, it was just, I think it was everything we bargained for and more. Everything you could have wanted to see in that game happened. There were big plays, there were defensive stands, like a goal line stand, obviously, that was pretty important there, and it came right down to the wire. I don't think you can really crucify a team in terms of rankings just because at the end of the day, they were 3 yards away from this being an entirely different conversation as we speak right now. We don't live in the world that coulda, woulda, shoulda, but at the same time, that's a factor to kind of keep in mind.
Well, it's an interesting thought because, again, we lost by 3. The line was -3 for Washington at home. So now put us in a neutral field. And I think if someone in the chat earlier said, at a neutral field, what would it be? And, yeah, it's going to be interesting. It depends on what our records are and how we play the rest of the season. But if both teams just do what they keep doing, that would be an interesting line to see on a neutral site.
Yeah, to be honest, if they played again, say it is December and everybody, we work through the schedule the way that we kind of hope they do, and Washington takes care of business on their end, I would not be surprised to see a pick 'em in Vegas, where you see the line is a 0.5 one way or the other. Good luck, because, at the end of the day, I feel like, home field advantage does play a role. Washington's crowd was absolutely roaring. I know we could hear it on the TV, so we know damn well the communication was tough. I know every time Bo was trying to audible out or signal to the offensive line, he was right down in their ear, trying to get to them. And, it's going to be a whole different ball game if we can get on a neutral site. That's not to say, for all we know, maybe the same thing happens. Maybe Michael Penix shreds their defense again. It is what it is, but I'm very, very intrigued at the idea of getting a rematch and just seeing, how that neutral site affects how things play out.
Luckily, we don't have to worry about that type of hype this week as we get to return home. And this week, unfortunately, thanks Washington State, kind of lost a little luster. Still Washington State, still a good opponent. But they have been struggling mightily. I don't know what. I know they have a couple of wide receiver dings and injuries and stuff like that, but I don't know what's been going on with their offense.
20. The line is now 20.
Yes, I have it pulled up. It is 20 and 95% Oregon win probability. I don't know what is going on with their offense, but it is. It is struggling mightily.
2 weeks ago, that line is what, 6.5, maybe?
Maybe, because Washington, their offense was firing on all cylinders at one point. Their defense was playing well. I think back to the Oregon State game in that first half, they were moving the ball at will. I think they only scored 28 points in that game, but they were moving the ball. In Oregon State's defense, they're no group of scrubs.
The biggest thing here we notice is, as you were saying this fast, the line is now minus 20. For some reason, I'm feeling it's going to go like 21 by the end of the week. But as we noted, the big difference here in the sense of yardage is 93 rushing yards a game. That is, I don't know if that's just dropped off last few weeks or if that's what it's been all season. That I couldn't tell you, but that's, I don't know what's going on with their offense.
I don't know. It does kind of make me excited. First off, I wanted to say that the line of 20.5, it would make me very, very eerie to bet Oregon minus 20.5. And that's, that has nothing to do with Oregon. That's not speaking on them. That is just because I've seen so many Washington State games over the last couple of years where they are clearly the inferior team and just in terms of talent on the field. It doesn't matter. Every time they show up and play Oregon, it feels like that game's circled on their calendar and they say, this is the game right here that we're going to show up to, and it seems like they usually do. So the line of 20 makes me a little on edge. I think obviously we should handle business here, especially like you kind of pointed out, Ben, with the rush yards that they have per game. This kind of reminds me of what we were looking at when we were getting ready to play Colorado, just in terms of how their offense is set up. And we know how that played out when the Colorado got one-dimensional. It got very bad for them. I think in this game, if Washington State does want to have a chance, they're going to move the ball in the air. I don't have a doubt about that to some degree, but I think they're going to need to move the ball on the ground effectively if they want a chance to win this game as well.
So, yeah, going back at Colorado State, they had 90 yards. Against Wisconsin, they had 90 yards on the ground. Against Northern Colorado, they ran for $148. Against the Beavers, they ran for 242 yards.
Eesh.
Wow.
They ran more than they passed against. No, wait, I got that wrong. I thought that was wrong.
I was about to say, like, geez.
No doubt.
106. And then against UCLA, I think it even got worse. It was 12 yards against UCLA. And then last week against Arizona, they ran for 35. So the last 2 weeks, 8 quarters, they've ran for a total of 47 yards against Pac-12 defenses.
Yeah, that's kind of insane. I'm just looking at like their leading rusher, the graphic that Ben has pulled up right now.
Yeah.
You know, we're looking at this Watson man here, 51 carries for $153 and 3 touchdowns. He's averaging 3 yards a carry. I mean, they're not moving the ball on the ground effectively whatsoever. And, you know, so that's clearly driven home by the point that Spaz just made in some of these games, especially when they face a stout defensive front like UCLA has. They weren't moving shit.
Well, that's why I'm curious. It's like, I don't know if they're trying to run a lot on third down because, I mean, Cam Ward, his yardage is decent. He's got comparable Bo Nix yardage, 14-3 touchdown interception. There's 17-1, but I mean, both have 17 on 79 and 17 on 96 yards. So, I mean, that's why I'm like, what is happening with their offense? Are they fumbling a lot? Are they trying to run on shorts or go for running plays on the fourth down and not getting it? There's another level to this somewhere.
They opened the game last week by scoring on their first drive and then went nothing. 0 the rest of the game.
Yeah, I don't know. Oregon's defense has a very real opportunity to take care of business here, and for all we know, this could be an absolute blowout. It definitely could be. It's just I don't know. I think I'm traumatized from the previous years where I'm choosing to be very cautiously optimistic going into this game. Thinking back to last year. Yeah, Mace Funa's interception at the end of the game. Just getting down to that point, and even getting to that point was a miracle to say the least.
I just saw the video replay on that. Somebody posted it earlier, I believe, on Twitter. It was the final 3 minutes. Oregon comes from 20 down.
And that doesn't happen. And if we get down 20 to WAZZU this weekend, the odds that another miracle like that happens they're slim. That was a crazy game to say the least last season.
Yeah, no, last year at like 4.5 minutes left in the fourth quarter, I said we lost.
I was right there.
And I was like, we're done. And then all of a sudden, it was like touchdown, out, touchdown. And I was like, okay, heart attack. Now, that's the only thing I'm concerned about with this game is kind of like what we said after, the Tech game or like last year with the UCLA game. Now we're hosting Washington State, who's kind of been down. Is this a hangover game? I mean, they're real things. I know we talk about them a lot, but guess what? When you come off a game against Washington where you win or lose, it's that type of game, and now you're like, Washington State. Is this a potential? I'm hoping not, but I mean, those are real things.
Yeah, I mean, when I say this, I don't want people to think that I'm saying this will be a hangover game. I don't expect it. I'm just saying the writing is on the wall for it to be. You come off a disappointing loss at Washington. Obviously, that the team's amped up for that game. Now it's one that was definitely circled on the calendar. So they can approach it one of two ways here. Either they approach it as feeling sorry for themselves and we're slugging into next week and, kind of looking past WAZZU. Or, they kind of come out with a big chip on their shoulder and give it everything they got this week. And I think Dan's going to have the boys ready to go. But looking at the flip side of this, too, the last thing WAZZU wants to do is drop three conference games in a row after they started 4-0. I
think they're crushed now, though. I think they've got to be demoralized. 6 points in the last 2 weeks.
We would think, and that's what I believe in my heart. I got to play the cautious optimism with it too. Like I said, I've seen this story too many times to look past WAZZU and say, I guarantee we blow these guys out the water, just because it doesn't always work out like we think it's gonna. So I don't think it's gonna be a hangover game. I think we take care of business. Oregon's gonna move the ball. They're going to score their points. WAZZU, I expect them to score some points as well, but it just kind of like Spaz mentioned, I think there's a little demoralization that kind of happened there. And it's been made very evident over the last 2 weeks, just with the drop off statistics wise and, the product they put on the field. So I don't know. We'll see though. I don't know. To be real honest with you, one of my least favorite games of the year is the WAZZU game, regardless of whether we're playing in Pullman, whether we're playing in Eugene, and it's just I don't like it. But I think at the end of the day, I think we're in for a blowout this weekend. That's what my gut tells me. That's what my heart tells me. I just got to be cautiously optimistic, to say the least.
You see Mark's post on here, my buddy Mark.
We got
Chat, Derek.
where he said they win and they cover. I think they want to rid the bad taste of last Saturday. WAZZU is that's kind of where I'm leaning to. I really do think that's more the case, just because these teams are not equal. Just the systems there on Oregon has the opportunity for this to be an absolute field day. I hope it happens. I hope they kind of reestablish themselves as the national powerhouse that they're finally getting themselves credit to be. This is a great opportunity to do so, even if it is a down to WAZZU team.
Cougar mouthwash. That sounds disgusting. Sounds absolutely disgusting, Mark.
And the other thing I noticed too, talking about the media and everything, most years in the past with the loss like this and rankings and Heisman trophying and things like that, the Oregon guys or team would have just went off the face of the earth. They still have Bo now as the third or fourth rated in the Heisman race in some polls after that week last week. Well, obviously they got Penix 1 and I think Caleb 2, and then I saw a couple polls had Bo 3 or 4.
Well, he put up more yards than Penix did.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, I mean, so it's not like Bo did anything wrong. To cost us the game. Maybe he made a couple bad throws here and there, like maybe bad judgment to call them a couple, a fourth down or something. But I mean, like he didn't put the ball, in jeopardy. So technically, he didn't do anything to like lose the game or not like throwing 3 picks. Caleb.
Yeah. One of the things I will say about this week, for those who may not know or see as much online or whatnot, 2 things have happened in the last 48 hours for Oregon. Well, since Saturday, we got one of the top 30 recruits in the country in 5-star defensive edge. Alan Breland has officially signed a letter with the Ducks. We lost a 3-star tight end decommitted the other day. And on the injury side, Jalil Florence returned to practice today. So that was a big for Oregon defensive fans. And one of our favorites, though, Dan Lanning told us this afternoon that due to personal reasons, and that is all that he would leave it at, safety Braylon Addison has decided to step away from the team. We don't know for how long, but we know it's for personal reasons, and Coach Lanning said that's all that he would elaborate on.
Which is understandable.
A couple misses,
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, out of all that information, I think Jay Flo coming back to practice and avoiding major injury. I know one thing we kind of talked about post game was the fact that they were concerned it was a collarbone injury, and which we know that could lead to multiple weeks as a recovery. That's tough to do, tough to bounce back from. But it's good it was a near miss. He's back. Although we saw him get torched a couple times. Like I said, that is arguably the best offense in the country. It's really hard to fault the guy for giving up yards, for giving up a touchdown to, potentially a round 1 wide receiver and a round 1 quarterback. It's a lethal combo. It's tough, but especially this weekend, we know WAZZU likes to spread the ball out. They like to play a little backyard football, as Brandon Dorless put it today in one of his interviews. we're going to need him back this week. So I'm glad he's back on the injury front. And in terms of the Aiden Breland stuff, it makes my heart happy that Dan Lanning is coming in here and prioritizing defensive linemen. This is 2 classes in a row where the defensive line class has been stellar. And for all we know, we're not done. We're still waiting on Jericho Johnson, who will announce hopefully late December. Could be a big pickup. We're still waiting on Elijah Rushing, who's, a heavy Oregon lean at the moment. But yeah, we got lots of good things going for us.
I personally didn't hear anything about another injury, but I mean, this week I'd be surprised. One good, Jaleel is back practicing, and then Jackson obviously was getting dinged up too this last game. Obviously, they had that collision together. What do you guys think the potential of maybe both of them not even playing this week and resting up? Because Bridges filled in pretty nicely, I will say. Actually, Bridges came in and did a pretty nice job for Florence.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it helps that I don't want to say it's a position of depth in the sense that, we trust all our corners in the same capacity that we do. But between Triquez Bridges and Dante Manning, they did step up in a pretty tough situation. And, they did what they needed to do at the end of the day. Personally, I want Oregon to put their foot down and step on WAZZU's neck real nice and early in this game, to really reestablish himself. So, personally, I hope he's able to come back and kind of play right away and be that effective play maker we know him to be. But at the same time, we know that there's a long season ahead of us, that there's quite a few tough games, to say the least, still on our schedule that we're going to need a healthy team for. So, it's one of those things where I do expect him, if he's back practicing on the Monday following Washington, I think he'll probably be playing this week. But we've seen healthy scratches before, just to kind of let him continue to rest and recover. So who knows? That's probably one of those things we'll find out pregame on Saturday.
That's why I'm curious, because after this we have to go to Utah. So I'm wondering, just use them sparingly, at least, I guess, maybe. Make sure they don't get dinged up again.
Eric, I think if they're practicing, they're gonna play. No. Dan Lanning's I think he's the kind of coach that's not gonna throw out a 60 or 70% player. If they're not near 100% or close to, I don't think Dan Lanning's the kind of guy that's gonna risk somebody's career or their health just for a game. He just doesn't strike me as that kind of a coach.
Did we hear anything about Ferguson?
No. I know when Monday interviews came around, I don't even know if it was addressed, to be honest. I watched a couple of different perspectives. I don't think it was. And, I know we talked on post game how that was something that was brought up, and he was walking away just fine in the locker room afterward. I'm going to go and give him the benefit of the doubt and say we're looking at a cramping situation. I know other people have their own opinions. And right now, in the social media world, which is filled up with
Kirk Herbstreit said, he went down. He's grabbing his his right leg.
At one point, he looked right in the camera and he says, I'm not even sure which leg is hurt. And that's kind of when I was like, oh, no, we're not doing this again. It reminds me of the Chip Kelly days again, where we've seen this too many times. So I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. I'm going with, hopefully, with the cramp. I have another thought about it. I'm going to choose to keep that one to myself. But who knows?
It was brilliant, though. In a way.
I wish it were acceptable to get in a post-game interview and say, just be real, Frank, what the hell were you doing? All right. Was it a cramp? Did you have some ulterior motive? What was going on here? It's going to be one of those things where we're never going to get the answer to it, and it's probably better off that way. But as far as I know, he wasn't limited in practice that anybody's noted. He wasn't missing from practice that I've seen. So I don't know. I don't know how to answer that.
Just ask it.
Yeah. I mean, one thing I do find interesting on the injury front, though, while we're kind of on that topic, is the fact that this is 2 weeks in a row, talking, the week prior to Washington and then the week prior to the bye, that Justin Jacobs was at practice participating in at least some form of a contact drill, full pads. and we didn't see him again this week with the linebackers. As far as I know, as far as I saw, he wasn't even dressed with the backers. So, that's another kind of key factor there. We heard Jamal Hill a few weeks ago speak about how fast he is, how quick how he looks like he could be an NFL linebacker. And, as Duck fans, we're kind of sitting here going, well, when the hell are we going to get to see it? So it's kind of frustrating to know that he's back at practice. Like Spasma alluded to earlier, though, if potentially it's one of those things where he's just not 100% and Dan's not willing to throw him out there at 75% and say, all right, good luck, hope it goes well. I'm sure it is one of those things where he wants to know he is 100% confident, 100% ready to give everything he's got on the field. So I'm really hoping this is the week. I'm not holding my breath, but I am so excited to see Justin Jacobs when he does get into action.
Yeah, he's kind of like a star in the making that they've been building and hasn't played much. So
at all, not a single snap in uniform in 2023. So I don't know what's going on. I can't fault Dan for he's never been the type of dude to come out and just say this is the injury he's dealing with. This is the timeline we're looking at. I can respect that. That's fine. It's not my business necessarily to have to understand it. I'm a fan just like everybody else, but I got the itch. I want to see him out there. I want to see that linebacking core continue to improve. And if, he has even a third of the hype that he's getting out of practice, he could be a huge addition to that linebacking core.
Yeah, well, according to Lanning, he's about ready to kick the media out because they can't get their stories correct. So that's why you're probably not hearing a lot of more stuff, because he's like, you guys can't even come up with the right injury diagnosis or anything. He was not happy last week with the media, so I might have to kick you guys out of practice.
I did see that very interview. He's like, would you quit asking about it? He's like, I'm not telling you, but he's like, if you must know, here's this. And he's like, I'm not inviting you guys into practice if this is how it is. So once again, I can respect it. Everybody chooses to run their program and, elicit certain information in a certain way. I can't be mad at it. It's
Chip Kelly was the same way. Yep.
Yeah, by now they should be used to it. I mean, he's always been kind of just, hey, we'll update you when we update you. There's nothing to say right now.
Yeah, I mean, on the flip side, I also get it. I don't want to sit here and trash our reporters by any stretch, just because they also have a job to do. And if, they're able to get some information out of that, they're going to ask the question just to see if they can get anything. I think they know the answer, but at the end of the day, they're just doing their job too. And I can understand that.
Well, hopefully everyone's just doing well. That's the big thing. It kind of sucked to see all the dings going from the Washington game. There is a curious question. I just want to hit it quick while we're sitting here. The scariest team left on the schedule? Not Washington State. Scariest team left on the schedule. Well, we have Washington State at Utah, home versus Cal, home versus USC, at Arizona State, and home with Oregon State.
I think I have my answer.
That's a tough one.
USC coming up.
I think personally, yeah, I think I would go. I mean, I don't think it's going to be a popular opinion, but I think it's Oregon State for me, and that's just because, one, it's a rivalry game. It's in the last year. We know how absolutely bitter those associated or affiliated with Oregon State is currently, just because of how the whole conference realignment thing played out. I think that's going to be one of those games that is absolutely circled on their calendar. I think if they have anything left in their playbook to try and make some disruptive shit happen, I think that's the game they're going to pull it out in.
Be nice, Tony. Be nice to little brother.
He has no one to play. I mean, he's not wrong. And, to be real honest, that's probably exactly why that it is one of the scariest games. I saw Tony's comment popped up a moment earlier that said Utah on the road. That's another one that really does scare me. I understand Utah doesn't have an offense, but their defense is very sound. And at that Kyle Whittingham, that man always has his team ready to go every single year. Regardless of whether Cam Rising would happen to be out there, which at this moment doesn't look like it's going to be a possibility. Obviously we'll find out a little more next week, but that's going to be a tough game. Playing in Salt Lake has never been easy, but that Oregon State game, I think that's the one on their calendar. I think if they could choose one more game to win out this year, it's going to be that one. I'm thankful it's in Autzen, but that's the one for me.
The ASU one originally was a little bit until we saw how kind of bad really ASU really is, but it is after USC, before Oregon State and on the road. So it is kind of one of those weird spots.
And I mean, Tempe for me is kind of like a Pullman, Washington in a sense too, where for whatever reason, we've seen some weird shit happen in the desert against some of these ASU teams that have no business playing as well as they do. I think Oregon wins that game handily. It's just, that's a game I really, really hope that they're not overlooking after an emotional game against USC. And then obviously looking forward to Oregon State, who you could argue is the biggest game on their schedule that we have left to play. So it's, I don't know, the writing's on the wall. We'll see.
Yeah, it's tough. Yeah, because I was like, I wanted to say Utah. I mean, USC, we're going to get yards and points. But I'm not their defense is just awful. At least Arizona State has somewhat of a defense, I guess. Probably better than USC's in some ways. Maybe, but they don't have much of an offense. They're still, really rebuilding. So, yeah, it's going to be Utah or Oregon State. It's one of those two. That's the ones that kind of like.
Yeah, and I mean, that's not to overlook USC by any stretch either, just because they do have a Heisman caliber quarterback. They have a very deep wide receiving core. They're going to put up points. I truly believe that. I don't think it's going to be a tremendous blowout, but like you said, Ben, they don't really have a defense at this point, at least. And Oregon should be able to score frequently. So, I have a feeling, at least right now, it's going to be one of those games where we're looking at like a 48-42, a 48-35 type of game, just a really high scoring game once USC comes to town. But at this point, I have no reason to look at USC and say, oh, I think they're the better team. It's just, I don't see it.
I mean, it is later in the season, so they can improve a little bit. The Arizona State, speaking of. But remember, just for instance, to give a comparison, Arizona State just lost at home 27-24 to Colorado. They could only put up 24 points on Colorado's defense. So at the same time, I'm not as concerned, but it's just because it's a road game in between the other two. That's where it's becomes a little.
Sorry, guys. I was listening to Kyle Whittingham's press conference on the USC game this week, and again, it looks like, and the piece that I did catch that I was trying to chunk through and find, it sounds more and more likely like Cam Rising is going to get a gray medical red shirt this year.
That's what I said about 3 weeks in. I was like, if he can come back in like a week or two, what's the point? If he's not going to go to the NFL, he would come back and have to have a whole other year to prove himself. Whether he stays at Utah or transfers, the point is he's got to have another year of eligibility, so he has the gray shirt. But he has to prove that he can stay healthy. Because that's an injury you got to prove that.
Well, like Cam came out either last week or the week before himself and said, guys, it wasn't just this. It was 3 ligaments were shredded in his knees. Not 1, but 3.
Well, no, that's more the point, though. You've got to be able to show a full season that you are healthy, productive, and not going to get re-injured again. Because otherwise, with an NFL draft team, maybe he's already kind of assessed his evaluation if he just went to the NFL, and they're like, you're going to go undrafted. He's like, well, one more season, I can work myself maybe into the 3rd or 4th round or something like that. At least get drafted. Make sure.
Yeah, if he redshirts and comes back and plays with Utah next year and plays in that Big 12, he probably is a top 5 pick in the draft the following year because they're just going to destroy the Big 12 next year.
Right.
I don't know about that, but the point is he would go from undrafted to at least drafted somewhere at least in the third, fourth round. You know, I mean, because there are people saying Knicks, for instance, just talking draft really quickly. Obviously, it's a long way away. There are people are saying he's working himself in the first round. Then there are people going, he's probably like third round. The point is, you want to know, hey, I'm going to get drafted. You don't want to just leave college, skip all your potential eligibility, and then not get drafted and go, crap. That's what you don't want to do. So.
And the thing that makes it especially tough this year in particular of all years is, this is widely seen as one of the deepest quarterback classes that have ever been.
We would probably take him. At least as a nice backup. We would
probably
take Rising.
Probably, yeah. Yeah, I can't wait for some of the off-season talk, but we'll get to that when that bridge comes. But just in terms of what he wants to do, and at the end of the day, his goal is to get to the NFL, to be drafted. Much like every other quarterback's dream that's playing D1 college football right now. But it would be such a difficult thing to do to come in and not play this entire year off one of the worst sports injuries in football, at least, that can occur, and try to just jump right into the draft room. It's not going to happen. Obviously there are going to be teams who would take a shot at him as a UDFA, but that's about it. So I think he has to come back realistically. And I don't think in his sense, it really makes sense for him to try to rush it, to play half to a third of the season and then see where his draft stock lies. That just is a business decision. I don't think that makes a lot of sense. So my guess right now is we see him. I think his year's done. This is all speculation, my thought. I didn't see anything anywhere, just so everybody knows. But I think his year's done. I think he does take that medical gray shirt, and, I hope he goes back to Utah personally. I mean, obviously, I wouldn't mind seeing him in a Duck uniform, but, I'm partial to Utah. I respect them very much so as a program, and I hope they succeed in the Big 12. I would love to see him come back next year with Utah and hopefully run that conference, to be honest. So it'd be good for him. It'd be good for his draft stock. It'd be good for his future. It'd be good for his body to let him, make sure you get a whole off season to fully recover, rehabilitate yourself, and get yourself back close to 100% strength again, and, see what he's got. So that's kind of my hope. I don't think we see him again this year, though.
Yeah, or you could do the Superman Aaron Rodgers thing and come back in 4 months off an ACL.
Yeah, Aaron Rodgers has money. Cam has some money, I'm sure, off NIL and stuff already, but he's working for the bigger paycheck, so
Yeah, and they were saying today because the Jets didn't buy an insurance plan, it's going to cost them almost an additional, upwards of $20 million in medical expenses in his rehab.
Yeah. Well, regardless, getting back to it, I hope Cam's able to bounce back. I really do. I hope the offseason does him well. I'd love to see him come back and succeed. I have no ill will toward Cam Rising, despite what I've seen him do against our team a couple times.
Yeah.
Was there any other little kind of insights or thoughts on Washington State game coming up? Again, it sucks because it kind of lost a little bit of luster from what it was just a couple weeks ago, especially because it is another primetime game at 2:30 Central, 3:30 Eastern. But
3 straight primetime games. When has that happened in Oregon football lore?
I don't have an answer for you.
Right?
Yeah.
Well,
just
I don't know. Yeah, I can't think of the time it's happened, but yeah, again, the game lost a little luster, unfortunately, a little bit.
Yeah. Just in terms of WAZZU, though, the last thing I have is I hope this is one of those games where Dan Lanning and the Ducks, they feel like their back's against the wall a little bit. I really hope that's kind of the mentality there because, I think they understand if they take another loss, especially to WAZZU, the road back to a conference championship gets very, very, very difficult, and you need some outside help, which obviously you want to be in control of your own destiny. And I think they understand that. So I really hope this is one of those games where they put their foot on the pedal real early and they keep it there for 4 quarters. I would love to see this be one of those games where they absolutely throttle them and they kind of show, Washington, it's not going to affect us. We're going to play Oregon football like we know how to do. And, that's the case. So I'm really hoping we're kind of looking at like a 48-21 type of game. That's my hope. We'll see what happens though. But yeah, my main concern here is I really hope from first whistle to last whistle, the foot is on the pedal, ready to kind of really deflate that WAZZU ego that may or may not be left.
What about you, Staz? Any final kind of thought?
No, I'm with Derek. I think we, in years prior, I think I would have been a little more concerned about this game, a little more worried. The Mario Cristobal and Willie Taggart years, I might have been a little more skeptical of how we were going to bounce back. But with Dan Lanning, I don't see that happening. Just the way he's composed himself and the way he's been solid the last 2 years. I got to give the guy respect and credit. Probably one of the better coaches we've had in quite a while. And I think he's going to have these guys up. They're ready, and they know that it's on them now to finish the job.
I think you might be muted, Ben. I can't hear you.
Is that a consensus amongst the 3 of us for the in Lanning we trust banner?
Yeah, and obviously social media, it really, you got to take everything you see with a grain of salt because you're going to get both ends of the spectrum in terms of what you see. You're going to see people who are like, Dan Lanning is the second coming of Jesus, or you're seeing people right now who are like, he can't coach, he can't win a big game, I don't know, maybe I'm delusional, but I trust the hell out of Dan Lanning. I understand that his first game against Georgia was tough. Last year, 0-2 against Washington and Oregon State combined. Lost again to Washington this year off some very questionable decisions. However, I think as a coach, I don't know. I trust the man with my life, to be real honest. So in Lanning, we trust, man. I'm on the train all the way.
ESCT, Edison apparently is not with the program for personal reasons. What those are, we don't know. But that's true.
We'll likely never know. Those type of things don't get disclosed, especially when it's a personal issue.
Well, Derek, Spaz, it's our favorite time of the week because we all sucked last week and we all lost.
I don't want to talk about it.
We were all wrong. Because if Oregon loses, everyone loses. You were close. You were the closest, Stats, but you got it wrong. You still lost. I already did the math, but you still lost. I make that dictator call.
Wait a minute, time out. It doesn't scores.
It works. That's how it works. That's how it works in the system.
Oh no, Spaz! I don't want to hear it because I lost a dictator point all because he wanted to keep it close. So I'm not hearing shit about dictator points. If he said what the dictator says goes, man. That's just what it is.
I still have 0, so it's not like I'm doing this for my own benefit either. I still have 0. So I've lost by total 3 points.
Yeah, to be fair, Ben, I was rooting for your score prediction all week last week. I was actively hoping you were the one who was going to win the point last week. So I can't say I wasn't cheering for you. I didn't even want myself to win. I wanted you to win last week, but here we are.
So because you weren't here, Derek, we had Sam Finley give us his score prediction. He went first in honor for the guests.
Sure.
His was 45-21, Oregon. So then I have myself. Then it was going to be Sean, then Spaz, and then you. Just kind of rotating, flipping the order a little bit. So I was going to go first for the first time now. So he had 45-21. So I'm going to have to lean. I think the Utah game after this, we're going to see Oregon do what they're supposed to do, but I think they're going to try to get the starters out quickly. I don't think that they want to risk it with the Utah game looming. And Washington State can't put up points lately. And then in Autzen, the way our defense for the most part is played, I'm going to go 52-14, Oregon. I think they're going to do what they did to Colorado. They're going to just run it up, pull the guys, and just let the backups have some fun for the second half. I really don't think that they're gonna play around with the Cougars. I don't think they will. I mean, the Cougars have scored 24 points in 2 games, 6 against Arizona at home.
Yeah,
I'm giving them good grace points here with 14. So.
Well, going back to the point when Spaz and I were mentioning how we want to see Oregon put their foot on WAZZU's throat, that's exactly what the hell I'm talking about right there. That would get the job done.
Well, you don't get to go next. Spaz gets to go. You're last because Sean's not here, so you get skipped. So, Derek, I'm going to mute you. You quiet down there. Spaz, score prediction. I have to win one sometime. Damn it.
I'm going to go 45-17 Oregon.
I'm going to copy Sam.
No, he went 45-10, didn't he?
21.
Yeah.
But, all right, 45-17. All right. I can take that, though. Derek, now it's on you.
Yeah, I think for myself, I'm going to take it a slightly different direction. I'm going to go with something like 38-24. I think they win handily. My only logic here is I know WAZZU can put up points. We know they can put up points. And for whatever friggin' reason they always play well against Oregon. I don't think they're going to win WAZZU. I don't think it'll be close at the end of the game. I don't think the game will ever really be in jeopardy. But kind of like to your point, Ben, I think some of the starters do get pulled potentially. I think they're cautious with their starters in the second half if this game kind of is out of reach. But I think potentially it could be a little closer than some people think. I really hope not. I'm rooting for Ben once again this week. I would love to see a blowout happen. But if it's got to happen, be a close game, I might as well take the point this week, right?
And that's why I'm kind of leaning the route I did, because to me, honestly, this seems like Colorado again. They have a better O-line than Colorado, but so far people have been putting points on them and they can't score. So right. I think you're just going to see the Ducks pin back and pin their ears back and just try to get to Cam Ward.
Yeah, and for me, this is such a tough game because I feel like this could be one of those games where it's like 31-17 Oregon, or to Ben's point, like it could be a 52-7 type of game. I don't really know how to take this game, to be real honest, just because of WAZZU's kind of murky injury front in the wide receiving room, with whatever wall they hit in terms of their offense that happened over the last 2 weeks. Maybe we see them break through and come back to be a shell of who they were previously, or maybe they continue to suck ass and we see them put up 3 points. I have no idea.
Yeah.
Again, didn't we all say, Colorado's going to put up like 20, 24 points on us? And it took 2 minutes left in the fourth quarter against like the third string team to score a touchdown. And then they still missed it. They blocked the PAT. That insult to injury. So it was like, or Stanford coming back from 29-0 to win.
Yeah.
I need to go watch that game highlight. It cheers me up.
I will say it was I was sitting in bed that Friday night of the game, and my girlfriend, she saw me get up and she's like, "Why are you putting on a game this late?" And I was like, "Stanford's coming back. We gotta see what the hell happens here." And to be honest, the biggest reason I was so happy, do you guys ever see RJ Young stuff on Twitter? One of the Fox Sports analysts, the dude,
the number one college football show.
Yeah, sure. Excuse my French. The dude gargles dongs on there for Colorado, and
I am clipping that right now. Can you
true.
just say that one more time with RJ Young's name in it? No, I'll edit it. I'll clip that.
Yeah. RJ Young gargles Steve's dong, Shadur's dong, Deion's dong. The dude would pay stupid amounts of money just to be in the same room and have Deion acknowledge him. I think it's just
so glad Mark's not here. This is a family show, people. Family show.
Well, but the point I was getting to is, do you guys remember when Oregon played Stanford and they were up 14-6 at halftime? He tweeted out at Oregon football, he says, "Is this your king? Is this your king?" When they were up by 8 points or what have you, right? Everybody on Twitter after that Colorado game, I saw that screenshot 10 plus times, tweeting back at him, "Is this your king?" with a picture of sad Shadur or Deion with the Michael Jordan crying face on. And it made my heart so happy. Like, I still to this day, I have zero problem with Colorado. What I do have a problem with is the media. The media is my biggest, the LaShawn McCoys of the world, the RJ Youngs of the world, who it's just, they have these blinders on where it's great. I understand, give them credit. They turn their program, well, I should say they're in the process of turning their program around. They are, I don't think that can be denied, especially what we've seen the last 2 years, especially. However, the lack of respect
another game
in wake of the CU, man, it's just, the dong is so far in RJ's throat that it's unreal.
I think Mark just pulled the plug. No, we're still live now.
Sorry, Mark. I apologize. I had to get it out. I apologize. It's my only remark. I don't, I'm here. I had to say it.
No, I mean, and it's it. I had that game on a side screen, and it was like 29-0 at half, and I was like, I'm going to put this over here and just do this other stuff. And then I saw 6 from Stanford, and I saw 12. I'm like, what do we have over here? But I did watch Deion's press conference afterwards, and he was like, I felt the complacency at halftime, and I told him I was worried about it, and came out, and look what happened. So he admitted, he's like, oh, geez, I saw it, I felt it.
These kids got upset. They like this game or they love this game.
And it's stuff like that makes me I like Deion. I love the way he coaches. I'm not sure if you guys saw the snippet of when he was addressing his team midweek last week, and he got in there and he's like, "What's y'all's plan after football?" He's like, "What's your plan?" And nobody had an answer to that. You know what I mean? And he was kind of addressing them more so as like, how are they going to continue to develop as men in the real? And it's stuff like that I absolutely love. I love Deion, and if he was Oregon's coach, I would be through the roof. That's nothing against Dan Lanning whatsoever. It's just, it's comparing apples to oranges.
Another
Wait, yeah. My issue is just, it's so with the media, and it really irks me. And it goes back to that Oregon week, to be real honest, when it felt like there was absolutely no respect to be had for the Ducks, and it was the Colorado show all this week. Oh, they're going to do this. Oh, they're going to do this. Shadur's the number one pick. And meanwhile, Bo Nix and the Ducks are sitting there like, yo, we're the number. I think at the time they were like 11 team in the country. What the hell? I don't know. Maybe I'm just bitching.
All I can say is after the Washington game, seeing the rankings, I think Oregon had made their point to the country as a whole, and Washington likewise. So both sides have made their argument going, it's 1, 2, or 1A, 1B, even, whatever you want to put it at, line, and then the rest of the Pac-12 right now.
And the number 3 slot's gonna drop this week. So, because we all know Penn State's gonna roll into the horseshoe and stomp a mud hole in Ohio State and drop them right out.
We will see come Saturday, because Saturday's got some good games. Once again, Oregon's in the driver's seat with the primetime slot again.
Ben's chicken.
3:30 Eastern Saturday. So, gentlemen, is there any final thoughts or hateful messages for WAZZU or Deion Sanders, Derek, or RJ Young?
Ben's a chicken. Ben's a chicken.
I'd let you guys speak.
I've made my qualms with RJ. I got it off my chest. I'm feeling a little bit better. You know, it's kind of like going to therapy. So I thank all the listeners for listening to me to bitch about him for about 3 minutes there. In terms of WAZZU, no, I have no disrespectful messages. It's more so I really hope the mentality is we're going to put this game to bed real nice and early on Saturday, and that's where I'm going to leave it.
What about you, Spaz?
Spaz is in the comments or no?
Yeah. No, I'm good. I think we're all ready for the comeback and the continuation of this train that the Dan Lanning is rolling through Eugene.
I have to agree. Again, Washington State kind of lost some luster. I'll be checking on their wide receiver thing. I like Jake Dickert, so I don't want to say anything negative about Jake Dickert. I think he's doing a fine job, but we're just going to see how we roll in after that Washington game. Hopefully there's no slow start, which can happen, and exactly don't take your foot off the gas, Oregon. Just end it quickly and put the Cougars out of the misery.
And Dickert, he's a fellow Wisconsin boy, so you know I'm a little partial to him. So I don't hate him, but I hope he's ready for an ass kicking come Saturday. Sorry about it.
He probably is. He's probably like, oh God, why? After Arizona, God, why?
I couldn't believe when I turned that game on last Saturday that it was. I think it was either 37 or 44-6 already late in the fourth quarter, and he still had freaking Cam Ward out there throwing. I'm like, wow, what is he just punishing this guy or what? He's still they're getting destroyed at home, and he's still got his number one team in there still.
Obviously, trying to send a message like, hey, you guys got to figure this out. Because something's gone wrong. What it is, maybe we'll find out Saturday, or maybe they'll put it together. But either way, one, we want to appreciate and thank, again, down below here, Sam Finley that was on earlier, the Oregon sports writer for the Eugene magazine. Does some good work over there, and he gets to go to a lot of the home games and sit and watch and then write about it later. That's always fun. He has a lot of insight. Hopefully we can get him back on the show later, or like he said, you can connect us with Nick Aliotti. That'd be awesome. But definitely, hopefully, we can talk to him again. And for everyone in here, please also make sure every Saturday for the rest of the season, or except for Friday night with the Beaver game, because it's on a Friday, the post-game live here on the Oregon channel for the Voice of College Football, following each game, usually within about an hour. So we have time to celebrate or cry, one or the other. Hopefully celebrate the rest of the season. We'll see how this goes. And then, of course, every Tuesday night right here, 9 p.m. on the Oregon channel, again, Voice of College Football, or the weekly show where we review and preview the next week's games. So, gentlemen, unless you have anything else, I don't know what that is. No idea.
I don't know what's going on. Go
I'm
Ducks.
going to end this before he goes on another RJ Young rant. Thank you, everyone. We will see you next Tuesday right here on the Voice of College Football. And go Ducks.
Go Ducks. Nittany Lions kick Ohio State.